Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for uh, tuning in again to another Community Heroes interview, and for our followers that have been with us. You know that we like to spotlight stories with individuals that overcome barriers or just spreading awareness about rare diseases. Um, so, with that being said, before we go into it, please like, subscribe, comment, donate if you feel free to. Um, and today, we haven't done one in a while, but as I was trying to find another interesting story to bring to the forefront, I was on Twitter and I ran across this lady. I think it was just marvelous what she done, but I'm not going to say too much. Miss Anna, I'm gonna just let you kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll have a little dialogue back and forth. And because there's a lot I don't know about you, so I'm going to be probing you after you introduce yourself.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Tyrone, for having me on the show. I'm very excited to be here. I live in New York City, which you can probably tell by my background. And I am a producer, director, writer, and a disability advocate. So excited to be here talking to you about my new Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge short film, Wheelchair Money.
Yeah. So okay. So and if you don't mind, as with myself, for those who know, I have a rare disease myself. I have muscular dystrophy, which has confined me to my wheelchair and things. But as most know, I'm very independent, being in an able relationship and things like that. As you just mentioned a while ago, you directed your short film, Wheelchair Money. Can you just talk a little bit about that and how it kind of relates to you, maybe personally, whether it be if you have a rare disease of your own or anything?
Yeah, so actually, it's funny you ask that because a lot of the stuff that's in the film is quite autobiographical. So I have cerebral palsy, which I wouldn't consider super rare. I think it's like 1% of children might have it. Don't quote me on that stat. But yeah, it's a disability I've had my whole life. You can't tell from, just being on Zoom. But I do use a mobility scooter, actually the same one if I move over that you see right there, that was featured in the film. That's my personal mobility scooter. And so the film it's a buddy comedy. It follows these two characters, Johnny and Whitney. Johnny is also a wheelchair user. He uses a mobility scooter. I use the terms wheelchair and scooter kind of interchangeably. We kind of don't know what his disability is in the film. The actor is a real life wheelchair user. So we believe in authentic casting here. And it follows his journey as he's trying to get a new power wheelchair, which he desperately needs because the scooter he has is, just on its last wheels, so to speak. It's, kind of breaking down on him all the time. And so when we meet these two characters, Johnny is on the phone with his health insurance company. And, as many people out there know, whether you have a disability or not, like everyone I know has had some kind of negative run-in with their health insurance provider because those guys are just there to deny. They don't care if it's something that you desperately need. And there are all these horror stories out there. And we hear the phone call, we see the phone call with the insurance agent, and it's kind of like, it's a comedy, so it's exaggerated. The insurance agent, he's playing a video game, which is what I imagine that these people are doing when they're rejecting our much needed equipment claims. And he's telling Johnny that, his wheelchair is being rejected, denied, because he doesn't weigh enough for the model he needs. And that's a real life thing that happened to me. The scooter is something that I had to pay for out of pocket because insurance told me I don't weigh enough to qualify for it, which is like the most ridiculous thing. So, like that's one of the many aspects of the film that, is true to my life. And then what happens in the movie is we see Johnny and Whitney Whitney finds that Johnny, he has a Beanie Baby, and she has her own reasons for why she thinks he should sell it, besides getting the wheelchair. But she finds this internet rumor that's worth $500,000, And that's also something that's in my autobiographical, because when I was in high school, I used to collect Beanie Babies. And so that Beanie Baby in the movie really is my Princess Diana Beanie Baby. That is real. And they go all across New York City trying to get to this toy appraiser before it closes, to be able to, sell the thing, and to get the money for the wheelchair. And they encounter all kinds of accessibility challenges along the way. Like, they try to take the subway, but the elevator's not working, and then it's full of piss. And the, taxis won't pick them up. And that's just so emblematic of like my own life experiences. Even in the past week, I mean, there have been 2 times, including when I was trying to get back to home base from shooting on the Brooklyn Bridge, when yellow taxis refused to pick me up, even though it's completely illegal for them to be doing that. And, I was trying to take the bus to visit family in another state, and the lift, of course, was broken when I got there. So like all these transportation challenges are very real for those of us who get around using wheelchairs in New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, when I was online and I was on Twitter and I ran across it, and like I said, I saw that story, but also you have done multiple short films. Also, so, and I just want to put it out. I like to give showcase people accolades, but this particular film right here, when I saw, I like, this right here is like so common that had, like you just said, you had that battle trying to come up with money to get a new wheelchair, and because of one reason or the other, like one reason is, usually with, if you get Medicaid, you have to wait usually 5 years before you can
Right.
get one, and so, but in hindsight, there's the other thing, like you get to do it in 5 years, but in the meantime, you got to be careful about trying to keep it up to par, because they look at that too. So it's like in that 5th year, let's just say if you got some new tires earlier in that year, or you got something else, they're gonna be like, well, oh, look, you spent some money on your Medicaid already, so you have to wait a little bit, because I had experienced that one time before, to where I had to make a decision whether I wanted to get some brand new tires or wait a little bit longer and just apply, do the physical and just go and do the paperwork for a brand new chair. Well, I went on and got the new tires because, I was working part time and I needed the tires, and my joystick was going out too. I needed a new joystick, and so I really couldn't wait. It was a couple of months I had to wait before it was time for me to go ahead and see my doctor for basically a wheelchair evaluation. And now, I'm about to get on my soapbox. I never did understand why if I'm still getting my disability and it's documented that I'm still disabled, and that's why do I still need to go see my doctor again for the wheelchair evaluation to say, okay, I'm still disabled. I need this wheelchair, you know, because in hindsight, it's kind of what the doctor, they'll recommend some things too, but if you have this doctor and you've seen them for several years, a lot of times, and I guess I'm going to speak for myself, my circumstances really don't change too much, like, because you get adjusted to your chair, it almost becomes a part of your body. So, within 5 years, you're probably not going to want to change too much about the modifications to your chair because you got comfortable. Yeah. So, but that, and then just the storyline agony, in my opinion, the guy goes through all these things to try to get the chair, and it takes a whole day. Now he's on this journey that takes a whole day just to find out at the end all his efforts. He probably felt was in vain. Whenever he didn't get the 5,000, was it 50,000, 500,000?
500,000.
Yeah. he does all this just to basically find out that his thing. Well, I hate to give it away, but his thing is only worth a couple of dollars. you know, So it's like, and I think we all been there. We've gone through the motions, we've gone through the hurdles. Then we realize, okay, if this is going to happen, I got to do something myself. And then you go through all these hurdles just to see that you can only get a little bit of help doing it your way. And it gets frustrating sometimes. So and that's why that drew me to want to contact you. Like, like this is it. This highlights the barriers and some of the day-to-day tales that someone who lives with a disability has to go to, especially when it's time to get the necessary things they need to be independent.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I mean, like since we're spoiling the ending, for me, and by the way, I hope you watch like the post-credit scene because like if anyone's there's like the ending is a little bit of a choose your own adventure. Like you can either stop at the Wheelchair Money logo or you can keep watching. There's like an additional scene if you want a happier ending to this story. But for me, like the ending, it just hit on such a note because I think it's emblematic of the fact that there are like so many, like you described, there's so many systemic barriers in our way. And that's just, like everyone wants this like feel good inspirational story, but that's just not like what disabled life is like. Like those barriers will still exist. And, the fact that he doesn't, get what he wants so easily, I think it was important to show that that's, just the very real things that we deal with, that you can't like snap your fingers or like call the ADA and things will magically get resolved. To me, that was like, part of the reason for cutting it off. The other reason, I'll just be completely honest, we made the film for the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, which is a 5-day filmmaking competition. And the maximum limit is 5 minutes for all the films. And we were running out of editing time. And so there was nothing that we really could chop at that point from the film. We chopped like as much as we could. And so we were allowed to put in like additional scenes in the credits. And that's why like that like final scene lives in the credits, just because like, we were trying to follow the rules of the competition. But I think it worked out because it has this like, this story kind of has one end, but then there's a secondary end that, is very different and shows further character growth for both Johnny and Whitney.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And it goes again to, in my opinion, it's still that comedic silver lining part at the end that, like you said, they're there, the day's over with, it's dark, and they're reflecting back, and like you said, she says, hey, at least we still got something out of this. Someone's willing to give us something, and he's like, okay, of course, in this modern era that we're in now, with likes and follows and subscribes, he said, well, I did this. That's why we have these likes now. He goes on. So I like that part at the end also. Now you touched on something a few moments ago about the Easter Seals competition, and I never met these individuals that I think you said you worked with. You worked with and I'm about to kill his name, but is it Lechard? His last name is Lechard. He was part of the Crib Camp crew that I think made the Crib Camp documentary. And the guy with the beard, salt pepper beard, hair.
Crip. Are you talking about Crip Camp?
Yeah.
Oh, Jim Lebrecht. Jim Lebrecht is great. I love Jim. He's a great documentary filmmaker. He is a judge for the film challenge.
Yeah. Now I follow him a lot, and I didn't ever get a chance to really sit down and talk with Judy. I interact with her a little bit before she passed away, and I was almost close to working around her schedule to interview her. But she had a lot of things, her own personal podcasts and appearances and things like that. But I know usually she talked a lot about the Easter Seals film thing too, especially whenever Crib Camp came out and everything. So with your submission of this video, um, the winners usually what happens when they I guess for the winners at this competition.
Yeah, I mean, so I was fortunate. My team won a few years ago, about 3 years ago. We won with our film, Social Fitness, in 2021. We were the awareness campaign winner. And the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, it's incredible. It opens so many doors, especially if your team wins, but still, even, I know people who didn't win who have gone on to receive amazing opportunities. But if you win, the main, I think, most valuable thing you get is like placement in all of these industry festivals. So you actually get to go and screen your film at festivals like Heartland Film Festival and Indie Shorts and Holly Shorts and the Portland Film Festival and New Filmmakers LA. So you really get a lot of exposure to the film industry, especially out on the West Coast. So that is really special. I've met a lot of really talented filmmakers through my participation in those festivals. And what was kind of cool in 2021 is at the time, because of COVID, all of these things were online. So I didn't have to worry about flying anywhere. I didn't have to worry about accessibility. I was able to just, like you and I, just get on a Zoom and just hang out with like 50 people who were all amazing filmmakers. And it took like all that pressure of like actually having to get to a place, out of it. So it was a really great experience. It was a really great opportunity. I mean, we won other things, like there was like a cash grant, which was nice, like to fund went towards our future productions. So yeah, it was, I think the Easter Seal Disability Film Challenge. The other thing I will say in terms of the exposure, what's really cool, and I'm not someone who's on camera. I am squarely behind the camera. I'm a director. I'm a writer, first and foremost. Is for the people who are actors who are in front of the camera, the films get seen by some really, really top-notch casting people out in Hollywood. So they go to the Casting Society of America, they watch all of the films, all like the year 135 will be seen by major casting, directors. And I know that for a fact because actually I have a good friend out in LA, Robert Ulrich, who's an amazing ally to the disability community. He was the casting director on Glee. And Glee Project, which is actually where we worked together when I worked for Oxygen. And, he watches, I don't know if he watches every single one, but he definitely watches a lot of them. And the finale, or I should say the award ceremony, is sponsored by Sony and happens, it takes place at Sony Pictures in LA. And what's really cool is their executives a few years ago, another film of mine, Pandora, it was a finalist, and although we didn't win, the Sony guys saw it, and they saw one of my actresses, Danielle Perez, and cast her in the latest Spider-Verse movie. So she played the Sun Spider. So it's super cool to be part of, that kind of a success story, because it's not every day when, you get to say like, hey, I made a film and like I helped a person get a job, being in a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I know.
Really cool.
Yeah, my son loves the new Spider-Man Miles Morales version movies that have been coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, let me change gears on my question. Let me ask you this: what initially made you interested in going into the career field of like film production and things like that?
Yeah, so it's something that I've wanted to try for a long time, and the stars just never aligned. I think before the pandemic, there was always, like an excuse not to. Like at one time, it was the same weekend as my business school reunion, and there were other schedule conflicts, and there was like so much kind of going on. And then I had really, really wanted to do it in 2020. I'd gone as far as like I secured like location rights to all these really cool places in New York City. And then the pandemic started, and that changed everything. And I couldn't do it the way I wanted to. And in 2020, they made it a documentary contest. So I still entered, and I collaborated with actually one of my mentees from Lights Camera Access, which is a program that I've been involved with for a long time. Like I had worked in the entertainment industry in, a little bit of a different capacity, doing visual marketing, but as part of that, part of my job always was content creation. And so I knew it was something that I was good at, that I really loved. And I wanted to kind of expand that into film to also help create the types of content, the kinds of narratives and stories that the industry is not out there making by themselves. And rather than like just being mad about it and like, asking, beating down every door of every studio or network and saying like, hey, why don't you like create more stuff with, these disabled characters? And I have so many talented friends. I just took it upon myself to say like, hey, you know what, let me change my mindset. Let me take the resources that I have and start creating this content and learn. I never went to film school, so this challenge has been my film school over the past 5 years. Start learning different things and go off and do it and show it to people as a proof of concept and get people out there. And that's that example of the Spider-Verse. It's kind of emblematic of that. Like we made a 5-day superhero movie. It does not look anywhere close to a Marvel movie, but it was a good story. She had a fun part, did an amazing job, and she got cast in this really huge project. So I think in terms of like being part of the pipeline, that's always been something that drew me to it, is being able to kind of be part of that change that is sorely needed in the industry, because even though 25% of the US population is considered as having a disability by the CDC, that's less than 5% of the characters that we see on network TV and media are people with disabilities, are characters with disabilities. Even less are played by actual actors with disabilities. And behind the camera, it's like, I think like fewer than 1% of the people like in director or writer roles, have a disability, which is also really a problem in and of itself. And that's why like these authentic stories aren't getting out there, because if you don't have a seat at the table, your voice is not going to get out there.
Yeah, that is definitely right. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you had I got one last said so much that you said there, but I got one last question, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. Now at the end of it, you just said that you really didn't have no film experience, and that was going to be one of my next questions that I asked you. So that on top of just the film experience, do you have like any education that's towards that right there, also that career field, or is like you said, it just was everything you just said, you just kind of learned on the fly?
Yeah, it's been a lot of learning on the fly, and I'm a big believer in transferable skills, right? Like, so I don't have, a film degree, but, I went to school for marketing, and part of, also I think what makes for good content is making content that people actually want to watch, and understanding, what people will respond to and what people will find memorable, and like, writing lines that I know, like in every film I make, usually, there are a few lines that I know are going to get like quoted a lot in comments or, in social media posts. So just, kind of creating those moments is important, because in today's world, like social media is such a big part of promotion and distribution. And I got inspired to try directing. I had actually taken some writing classes because I went to the Upright Citizens Brigade. I did their whole sketch writing program and pilot writing program. So I have, comedy writing training, formally speaking. I also took screenwriting when I was doing my undergrad at NYU. So I took some classes at Tisch, screenwriting and producing. So I do have some of that formal training, but as far as being a director, I was inspired when I went to an event and I was moderating a panel, and I met Ben Lewin, who is an incredible director out in LA. He's directed The Sessions and a lot of other like big movies. And like me, he showed up using a mobility scooter because he has polio. And it was amazing to see someone who kind of, like in some ways looked like me, right? Like in that role. And I hadn't considered it was part of my own ignorance because I didn't understand the difference between the director and the cinematographer, and that I thought that the director would have to carry around a camera, which, you know, like I knew would be difficult for me to do. But he said that, you know, being a director is just about, you know, sitting around and bossing people around. And I was like, you know what? That's me. Like, I can do that. And that kind of like really opened my mind to that being a possibility, and is, you know, just something I truly enjoy and, you know, have found that I've had some success in. So I think, you know, just important, you know, to keep in mind, like, yes, like education is important in skills, but there's many ways to get the skills. And, you know, I think in this particular industry, people look much more at like your portfolio and your work and just to see what you can do rather than where you went to school necessarily.
Yeah, but that's just awesome. Again, Anna, I want to say just thank you so much for just taking your time and speaking with me and my supporters here at Community Heroes. And definitely, I wanted to make sure we stay in contact. I want everyone to support you. In this video, I'll make sure I put some links in where they can go and check out your content and just, you know, really just support you and your objective and your mission and what you're trying to do. Just raising awareness with you know, disability and, you know, the barriers that we face. Before we go, was there anything else you wanted to ask me before I, you know, say goodbye?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just hope everyone watches Wheelchair Money and enjoys it. And thank you so much. It was great speaking to you, Tyrone.
All right. Thank you so much. And remember, one last time, everyone, please like, subscribe, follow, do all that stuff, go to our social media, and definitely, you know, like her video. I think it was on YouTube, Wheelchair Money. So, you know, like and subscribe there too. Let's get 1 million views on that.
Yeah, 1 million views. Yeah. And actually, people can find me, if you want to find me on social media and follow me, you can find me at Anna Tated. That's ANNATATED.